Good evening, y'all. I hope y'all are having a blessed and wonderful week. And we are going to go over this evening the Proverbs 31 woman. So it's something that we as a group have studied and gone through in the past, but we studied it according to what it means, going back into the commentary, researching, the words in the Greek and the actual meaning. Like we did a pretty deep study on it. But there was a question posed to us by a viewer, by a listener, and her question was, what does the modern day Proverbs 31 woman look like? Whether it be, in a ranching or rodeo home or just modern in general. What does the modern day Proverbs 31 woman look like? And so that's something we've all got some notes and have kind of meditated on that question. So we're going to go over that tonight. It's going to be fun. Yay! We are raw and real Western women who have endured the fires of life, and though we carry the brands of our trials,
we are learning how to satisfy our thirst with the well of water that comes from the only one that can truly satisfy, Jesus.
Journey with us as we explore an unlimited range of topics. We will discuss our personal experiences,
the good, the bad, and the ugly, along our beautiful journeys to the well, and so much more.
Water up!
None of us is, going to the distaff and twirling our linen.
The spindle.
No, we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah. Spinning the spindle.
We're not
Right.
making
Yeah.
sashes to go sell down at the market.
Right. But it's funny, though, just because the terminology is different, it doesn't mean that these same things don't still apply.
Yep.
They do still apply, but in a modern day format. So you just have to almost kind of translate it into your own life and the life that you live. And so it's all still very, very applicable.
But you know what the hard thing is this day and time is nobody really knows what that is, because as Proverbs 31 was written from a mother's point of view to her son, what he should be looking for in a wife. This day and time, we don't do that. As soon as we're physically attracted, we're jumping on it. And before you know it, you're like on down the line, you're marrying because they're hot, or, things like nobody has the gist of what that is anymore.
Yeah.
It's turned so like,
Fleshly.
flesh, nobody knows how to be a good housewife anymore. Nobody knows the characteristics of it. So I think this is a wonderful thing, especially for youngers and even older people who don't know. There's some that who just do not know, they weren't taught, so these are very important things that you can go, and they're good characteristics to have regardless if you're married or not.
Yeah.
Even if you're single and eventually going to get married, you can already have them undergoing, and building your character on them. So when you do get married, you're already a step ahead.
Yeah.
And then to be praying for that person.
Yes.
Like praying that your future wife or your future husband have those certain characteristics that you really know is where they need to be.
Yeah. I wish Allie Joe was here tonight. I know it's flopped around, but she's got her list, that is like so important to her, of the qualities that she wants in somebody. And it's not just fleshly things, like it's qualities that matter. It would be awesome to hear her viewpoint on that.
Yeah, because she's very in-depth, and I wish I was like that, especially at her age, or 19 or 20. Like, she knew what characteristics. She doesn't care about money and looks and all that stuff. It is truly like who they are as a person. How do they treat people? Obviously, are they godly? Are they walking with Christ? And so I just pray that she holds on to that, especially the older that she gets and those fleshly desires do come about, that she doesn't lose her true desire to have that godly man in her life.
For sure. And if she does hold on to it, and I hope and pray she does too, that's really going to bless her. Yeah.
Well, that, and even at the first of Proverbs 31, the first 10 verses is the mother telling him that, hey, you are a king, you are a prince, you are held to a higher standard. Do not be drinking, do not, you've got to stand up and speak for the deaf and the mute. And she's telling him a way to be too. Her standard isn't just for the woman, it's for the man too.
When it's talking about, in verse 3, it says, do not give your strength to a woman. And that's not being ugly, but the man is supposed to be held to a standard of leading the home. So if you, for instance, the famous quote of, if she's not happy, nobody's happy, or she wears the pants in the family, like, it's not really how it's supposed to be. Like, he is supposed to be held at the higher standard. He should be the, right under God there. He should be led by God and be leading the home. So in that, it's not like you have to just bow down to him. Like, that is a man's standard, is to lead his home, provide for his family, do those things. And it's not like you don't give it to somebody and let them run away with it. The women should not be running the home. We should be submissive to our husbands, which we've talked about in the past. Like, but that's a role this day and time that's not important. Like, the woman most of the time is the breadwinner, or has been the breadwinner, and like,
or makes the most important decisions. Like, and that's another thing that you have to put on the man, because the man has let that go. They have become a little bit lazy with their leadership. They think it's easier just to let the woman do it, and
Yeah, they're not upholding their responsibilities, but they're still expecting the woman to uphold hers, or more so.
And that's not all men. That's just a small, they just may not know. That's just maybe what they've taught. So not like degrading men or anything, but like there's just some that don't have those standards. They don't know any different, or they just get lazy with it. You know?
Well, and a lot of us as women demand that. We
Yes.
demand to have the strength. We demand to have the power. We
Control.
demand to have that control. So where does that leave your man?
Yep.
That leaves him underneath you instead of partnering and holding him at a higher standard. So therefore, you're now belittling him,
Yep.
and he no longer has that strength that it says, do not give your strength to women. They need to be able to have that strong backbone. But if we demand over and over again to, hey, I can do what you can do, I don't need you, I don't need a man. Like, there's one
you
song
do.
out there saying I can do it myself. Like, sit down, I'm not going to go buy myself flowers.
No.
No, I'll go pick them out of the field before I go buy them.
Sit down.
Sit down.
Like, no, I want a man to love me and empower me in a positive way, not let me steal it from you.
Well, and what you said is true, and it says it in Genesis that we're going to want to take the leadership. Like, that was part of what happened with the serpent in the garden, that we're going to fight to be above our husbands and have that want. And so we have to walk our walk knowing that that's going to be a constant struggle, and make a point to be submissive and to focus and concentrate on our responsibilities.
Yes. And I know, like, one of the things, like, when we first started our own business, like, I was having me, not as in him, like me, in my head, I was having trouble because I wanted it to be run perfect on whatever that is. But it's like, you have to let it run its course. Like, you have to let them have say. And then it's like, where he's weak, you come up strong, and where you're weak, he should come up strong.
Yes.
So the things that were less important to him, I just come behind and I pick up. Or maybe cleaning stalls aren't that important to him, he's more focused on that. Well, guess what, that's the trait that that's the job I'm gonna pick up. I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna clean stalls, or I'm gonna scrub water buckets. Whatever he's weaker at, I'm gonna try to be stronger at. And it should be vice versa. It should be a team effort. Where I'm weaker at, I'm not as skilled in the training aspect of it, so he works harder at that while I work at the lesser things. So it's a team effort in your marriage or whatever, not even in training horses, just in your home in general. We as women should be good home keepers. Well, there's some of us who lack in that area, and the men come in and do that. But she's better at, working the finances, keeping the finances in order. You
It has to be balanced.
Balance, yes.
Instead of the constant competition that we have right now, because everything is a competition.
I do more than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really, really dangerous footstool for the devil.
Yes.
We experienced that in our home back in our previous life. And it was bad. That was one of the primary footstools that the devil had in our lives, was weighing who did more in a day. That's a really, really dangerous thing to get into.
Well, that, and then, like, God made us for dominion, but he made us for dominion over certain things.
Yes.
He made the man for dominion over the family, the household, everything else, and he made the woman for dominion over the house and the children, and, like, et cetera, et cetera. And we have taken that to an extreme where we need the dominion over everything. Even the men take that role sometimes. I need the dominion. It's all become a selfish thing instead of, okay, how can we come together as one? Two people come together as one, not I'm the one and I do it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we try to take and be selfish with it, And a lot of times, even especially in your arguments, you can realize how selfish you are if you really go back and look at what you said, because oh man.
Yeah, he's gonna point it out to you too. Like that
Yeah.
happens to me 9 times out of 10. I just keep my mouth shut now. I'm just like, yeah, I'm not doing this again. I'm just gonna sit here.
So, when I was meditating on the section of Proverbs 31 that is the virtuous woman, the first verses, which is 10 and 11, immediately it's brought to the forefront. Her worth is brought to the forefront. So, the virtuous woman, the woman that we're supposed to strive to be, is a woman who brings value into her home through herself, through what she provides for her family and what she does for her family. So she adds value to her family. And it also says that her husband trusts her wholeheartedly and that he will gain from her unfailingly. So that can be looked at in, trust. Obviously, that's self-explanatory. We understand trust, but to gain from her unfailingly can be looked at in so many different avenues. It can be, that he gains joy from her. She may contribute financially to the family, or he may there's so many different things that a woman can add to her home to allow her husband to gain. And so I thought that was interesting. That struck me more than anything, because it almost wraps up the whole section in that first verse, talking about her worth, because everything she does that follows that only adds to the value that she's adding to her family.
Exactly, and it talks, when you're talking about value, it says that she sees the value in her family, and she doesn't go about complaining or being lazy about it. So it's valuable to take care of your family. I know whenever I got to stay home, I got to be a stay-at-home mom for quite, since my first child was born until like now. I'm still stay at home, but I work, with my husband now. But like I got to stay at home, so in that little season of my life, I felt useless. Like, what am I doing? How am I going to contribute to help him? He's gone. At that time, he worked on the rig, so he was gone for 14 days, and then he'd be home for 14 days. And I felt like I was not valuable to him, like I was just sitting there sucking the life. All he's doing is feeding me, and I'm taking care of the kid. Like, I didn't, until like I got into this, and my job as a homemaker is very important. Like that is one of the most valuable things you can do, is take care of your home and your children. And once that kind of like started rolling over me, like I felt like I was contributing. So by the time he come home, the house was spotless, the grocery shopping was done, all the feed and everything like that was done. Like he literally had nothing to do. Everything was mowed, weed eated. Like literally he could come home for the 14 days and do nothing but be with his family. And so like those were things that like that was important to me, is my husband had nothing to do when he come home. He could literally just enjoy himself and be with his family, because he was gone for 14 days, relentless out there, doing whatever. But it was a safe haven for him to come home to and relax and not have 50 million things to be pointing the finger. Well, you need to get this done. Well, what have you been doing?
Right.
So I took I took a lot of pride in that. And I'm still like that today. Like, I don't want him doing any of the house stuff. Does he? Yes, he does, because we both work hard. But I make that as a high priority. I will get up in the morning and start doing those things, because I don't want him doing it.
Yeah.
That's how I can give back. You do everything else. Let me give back to you through this. So for stay-at-home moms, like, that is very important. You're not useless. You're not worthless. It's not that you're not valuable or bringing anything home. Your home is your job.
That's right.
Don't be lazy. Don't complain about it. You are working as if you're working for the Lord, and that is the most important thing in your season right now. Yeah.
Don't believe all the lies that come in about it.
No.
Yep. So following the worth and the trust and the gaining, verse 12, in simple language, her actions bring him only good, no evil. So there's no condemning words that come from her mouth. She doesn't talk down to him. She doesn't put him down. She doesn't, get upset with him, and only good, no evil. That's hard.
Yeah. Horrible these days. Terrible at it the majority of the time. Yeah.
It can be really, really hard. But, oh man.
I think that also means to help him to keep on track and not venture off into the flesh or things like that. Like you can sit there and balance him out. Like we should be leading him towards positive. So whenever you start seeing him drifting off, like with loving kindness, bring him back and help him redirect his path.
Yeah, not like a condemning. It's more like, hey, like getting them to self-reflect. Even if you have to ask a question that's given to you from like the Holy Spirit, like how can I get him back on track? Getting him to self-reflect so he can bring himself back. Because if you go to nagging and pointing your fingers, it's going to go downhill from there. So it's like to get them to self-reflect. Like that's the only way that they're going to be able to be brought back.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
I think the Proverbs 31 woman is the absolute master of placing her husband before the Lord in the in the spiritual realm.
Yes.
Because like she doesn't nag, she doesn't condemn, she doesn't none of those things. She just simply says, Lord, here, and then the Lord does all the work. Everything is perfectly balanced.
Yeah. And so whenever I was studying for this, I went back through and I looked up every like Hebrew word. And so in the verse 10, where it talks about her being a noble woman. So noble in the of noble character. Noble character means a force, an army. She has wealth. She has virtue. She has valor. She has strength. That's like not just your typical, that's like a force. That's like, set above. So it may not be easy. It may not be what you want exactly, but you can't give in to the flesh. You've got to be noble. You've got to have the virtue. You've got to have the valor. That's a step above. That's a standard that you're going to have to try to keep. But, I mean, you can. And then whenever you get to where you're talking about, talking to your husband and, like, you do bring in the condemning words, that's just a seed that it's like the yeast that ruins the whole lump. Like just a little bit. That's all it takes is to ruin the whole day, the whole evening. I'm sure everybody has had those conversations with their spouse where one word, and then you're looking back like, man, why did I say that?
Yeah.
Gosh, dang
Was that necessary?
No.
Really? Like, did we need to do that? No. But good means, in the Hebrew, it means pleasant, agreeable. So if it's not agreeable and it's not pleasant, just be silent.
Well, it's like
Which
one of
is
those
hard.
things. It's like, is it really worth the fight? Is it going to matter tomorrow? Is it going to matter in 10 minutes? Like, what are you fighting over? Like, look at it specifically. And if you think about it before you open your mouth, 9 times out of 10, it's selfish rooted. It didn't go the way you wanted it to. It wasn't done the way you wanted it to. He didn't do it the way, like all these things. It's all self-driven. So if you can stop and reflect on it before it comes out of your mouth, and I know that's hard, it's easier said than done, but we're supposed to have control over our emotions. And the Proverbs 31 woman has control over her emotions. They do not drive her response. They do not make her act out. She is restrained and calm, cool, collected. You don't stir up strife. It says agreeable, noble, and those things all come from having a relationship with the Lord. You can't do it in your own strength. You have to have him. Yeah. So a healthy relationship with the Lord needs to be done. So it's the only way it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yep. So continuing on, I guess, with the
I like it.
in order, roughly 13 through 15. So I had 13 and 14 together and 15 separate, but they all kind of go together. So we may not seek wool for clothing, flax for cooking. We may not have maid servants anymore, but we can ensure that our family has clothes to wear, and we can ensure that we've gone to the grocery store, like what you were saying, and we can ensure that we rise early enough to make sure that we can complete everything that we need to in the day to make sure that our family is fed. And verse 15 specifically says, and I got this from the commentary. I didn't pull it out on my own, but when I went back and read the commentary, it talks about her maidservants and that she ensures that they're fed as well. Well, what the commentary showed me in that is that she wasn't working alone. She had people working beneath her, which means that she delegated well. So she understood that she couldn't take it all on herself and that she had to delegate certain tasks to people and then ensure that essentially the machine ran smoothly, So I think that's important too, because often I know me, I get to trying to do everything myself because I have this misconstrued conception that nobody can do it right unless I do it.
Yep.
And and that's a lie. It's okay to ask for help. It's good to ask for help. You might learn something new.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of perceived that one, and I thought that was a really, really neat point too. We may not do things like they used to do it back then, but that doesn't mean that we can't make sure that our kids have clothes that fit them, that we've gone grocery shopping, and that we can't ask for help.
Yeah. It's definitely like, I think we were all at one point in our life, like you said, like you didn't want to ask for help or you thought nobody struggled the way you struggled. Like the Proverbs 31 had battle buddies. Like she had her women and, she took care of them. They took care of her. Like, get you a group that is faithful, that's not going to be talking behind your back, but like y'all can come together and battle things out, like spiritually, take care of each other that way as well, too.
Yeah.
I think a good summary and outlook on the rising early is you can take into perspective the kids whenever they go to school. Like if you sleep to the last minute and then you're running through the house, everybody wake up, find your shoes. Of course, everybody loses their shoes when they're in a rush.
Oh, yeah.
And trying to rush out the door, and then it set that pattern like you're kicking them out the door, go to school, love you, bye. And then you get to work, you sit down, it's like, oh, well, that was a terrible morning because you didn't wake up early enough. You didn't set that foundation good for your child to have a good day. And if you think about it, that's how our days are whenever we don't wake up early enough and kind of get that foundation set just for that day. Like every day is new. Every day is a gift from God. So how are you going to treat it every morning whenever you wake up? Are you just rushing out the door to make the day a checklist, like, okay, I checked this day off mine, let's go to the next day? Or is it, I'm going to take this day and cherish it because it is a gift. I didn't have to wake up this morning. Like, God could have taken me last night, right? But he gave you yet another day with your kids, another day with your family. So are you going to waste that time and rush out the door, or are you going to rise early and cherish that moment?
She's definitely a good steward of time.
Yes.
Most definitely a good steward with her finances and a good steward of time.
Yes.
Being wise with it. And this day and time, social media gets in our way. We say we don't have time to do this, but we have time to flip on our phones. Like, it can be so helpful, but in the end, it can be one of the most horriblest things that tears your family apart. You don't spend the time you need with your kids, or you're shoving one in front of your kids. We're all guilty of it. They all have tablet time or PS4 time, whatever. But like, that takes away from the family time, and you get so prone to doing it. It's like a self thing. It becomes lazy. You become lazy with it. You don't spend the time. So being a good steward of time is definitely something that a modern day Proverbs 31 woman is. And that's making time for your time with the Lord, time to, for your kids, most definitely your husband, because that's right underneath God. It goes God, your husband, or God, your, wife, if it's vice versa or whatever. Like, that's top priority right there. So them things need to be taken care of. And that comes way before any of this, which we're all guilty of it. I mean, it's not pointing the finger, like we're literally all guilty, but it's nice to have that little correction of, I don't need this. What did they do before, before all of that?
Well, like if you like I said, I looked up all the actual Hebrew words, and it says that she rises repeatedly. Like repeatedly is in the thing. It's not just a one day deal. Like it's repeatedly. It is a habit, and once you make it a habit, it's not that hard. Instead of getting up flustered every morning and making everybody stressed, your whole day will be stressed if you start like that. I've done it hundreds of times. But that, and then also like throw in the phones in front of the kids and stuff, like you and your husband aren't talking either. No. There's no communication there. You cannot work as one. You cannot if you're not communicating and not talking and not discussing things and not talking about what's going on in your life. Like, it has taken away how to communicate. We can't communicate unless we're texting.
Kids
Like,
will never learn that
no,
way.
they'll never learn. And then, like, a lot of people, like, I don't give JC a tablet a lot. Like, she very, very rarely. Very rarely. And, like, she doesn't get to sit. We don't watch TV in our house. We don't have a lot of time. Like, we'd rather be outside working, doing something. We're cleaning, we're doing something. It's very rare that we do the tablet. But you go out into this world and tell somebody that, and they're like, you're weird. No, it's protecting her too, because there's so many things that she doesn't need. She doesn't need to see that or watch that or learn how to sit on the couch for hours and just become a couch potato.
Right.
Like, that's not something that she needs. She needs to get outside and be active.
Yeah.
Well, you're teaching her what's valuable.
Right. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And, like, we'd rather sit outside as a family. And, yeah, sometimes, you know, like, we'll get on our phones and scroll, but it's easier to be distracted from that whenever you're not just sitting on the couch doing nothing.
And another thing it opens up, which I meant to mention before, is it starts when you're on your phone all the time and you're not giving the accurate attention to your husband, that starts causing trust issues. Who are you talking to? What's more important? My phone stays open all of the time. Like, my husband picks it up, looks at it anytime he wants to. Like, I have nothing to hide. So, like, I think that's important this day and time. It's like a lot of, you know, I don't want you looking at my phone. Like, that's my privacy. Well, whatever's for me is for me. I'll tell him, hey, there's some stuff on there that's private. You know, somebody messaged me. You don't really need to read it because it does not pertain to you. You know, it has to do with prayer or something like that. But other than that, my phone stays open. And majority of the time, like, he trusts me enough to know that, okay, that's confidential, not in a bad way, because I've never had a reputation of anything bad. So he knows that it's confidential, as in somebody's put it there and they need prayer or they're struggling or something like that. But free access to whatever he wants, and for me, and it's vice versa the same for him. So, like, that's one of the things I know we get picked on because we share a Facebook account. What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
What he needs to see for me is there. What I need to see for him,
Yeah.
like, there's nothing to hide.
Nothing to
Right.
hide.
Like,
And if you do give them something to hide, you know, like, that's where distrust comes in. That's where they start. And like, just one little seed of that is just,
It's a crack
Yeah.
waiting to split
yeah.
open.
And it literally leads to so much conflict because, which, like, I mean, my phone has a lock on it because I have a work email, but Jake knows the code. So, like, it's not he can have it at any time. And so, like, you've got to keep that honest, open. Otherwise, you can't become one. You can't be unified. There's so many other things that make you not unified.
yeah, don't let it be stuff like
Don't
that.
let it be little stuff that's
For sure.
not, you won't even remember in 10 years, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
for sure.
So, verse 16 and even 17 as well, she makes wise investments that will continue to produce. So, like Katie said previously, she's a good steward not only of her time, but also of her finances. So, she invests wisely in things that she knows will continue to produce and that she will continue to be able to reinvest in. And then 17 addresses the fact that she has strength, that she is a strong woman, whether it be physically, mentally, emotionally. I think there are a multitude of strengths present within this woman, not just one, not just physically strong, like she's buff, hey, she has nice arms. It's not like that. Like, she's a strong woman.
Productive mentally, productive physically, like, just productive and all the way through, for sure.
Well, it says she, you know, took a piece of property and bought it with her earnings and then made it into a vineyard or a garden, and, like, so that way you can get a product, you can get a profit, you can,
Feed your family.
like, it has a tree and she's making the fruit with it. Like, she is bearing fruit by doing that. And so it's so hard in this age, this modern age, to not just, like, yeah, we go to work, but what are you putting your money into? Are you just buying that cute shirt, you know, that, or whatever, the latest one that you see on social media? Oh, I need that one.
Yeah.
Even though you have 500 in your closet. I'm guilty. I've done that before. But, like, what are you putting your money to? Is it going to grow? Is it going to bear fruit? Are you going to make a profit from it? Like, even if you try something and it fails, that's better than just wasting it on something that's not going to benefit anybody.
I know that a lot of times on the money thing, it's like, I know this is probably going to ruffle some feathers, but the self-care thing. But think of the word self-care. And I'm not talking about like making sure you're like mentally stable. Like, I'm talking about spending time with the Lord. Like, that is my self-care. I want to be reflected on and stuff like that. I probably go maybe 2 times a year to get my hair done. Does it make me feel pretty? Absolutely. Do I love to get my toes done? Absolutely. But if I don't have the extra to do so, I don't go and do it. And I make sure it's okay with my husband before I do anything. Like, hey, I have this. Do you care if I go get my hair done? I haven't had it done. And 9 times out of 10, he don't care. Like, he does not care. He didn't care if we only had like $10. Go get it done. Like, he doesn't care. But out of respect for him of being the money earner of my home, I always run it past him. Do you mind? You know, make that a thing. Like, this is what we have here. All bills are paid for. May I take this section out and go get my hair done? But if I know that I have something due, or if something's coming up, like, I will refuse. I will not do it. I will not buy it. Do I want to? Absolutely.
Right.
Because it makes me feel good. But that self thing,
Right.
Yep.
you know, all the self-care I need is being reflected on upon the Lord. What can I do to change to be more productive for my family? He don't care about my hair.
Right.
You know,
And like, if funds are tight, I'm sorry, but you can't afford the nail salon every
No.
2 weeks.
No.
Right.
No, you have to make wise choices. Wise choices.
Because, like, yes, nails look pretty. Yes, they make you feel good. Everybody loves to get them, but they're expensive. And, like, they're just going to fall off in a week or 2 weeks.
or if you can go get your nails done, but you don't have food at home for your family, your priorities are not right.
Right.
Your family should be fed, and then if you have extra, then go and do. I know there's a lot of things like, well, I'm worried about me. I'm going to do me, and I'm not pointing fingers at nobody. But it's just one of those things. If your family, a Proverbs 31 woman, makes sure her family is taken care of before.
Right.
So if it's not, then guess what? You don't get your hair done. You don't get the cute shirt. You don't get your toes done. Does it hurt? Yeah, it sucks. Because our flesh wants it. But your family and the Lord, they come first.
Right.
And the world tells you you deserve it. You don't deserve
No.
nothing.
No.
Like, no, we are here to be servants. We are here to
Yes.
help other people, not reflect on ourselves and
Yeah.
sit there and stare at ourselves in the mirror. It is, how can I reach out and help others? But
Right.
everything is, well, you deserve this. You deserve this.
What
Like,
about taking somebody who's never had their hair done and go let them
Yeah.
get their hair done? Or take somebody who's less fortunate, or maybe at the nursing home, or who's been in the hospital. Why don't you take them to go get their toes done instead of spending, like, the whole world is about self. You don't need self-care. Your self-care needs to be taking care of somebody who's less fortunate than you.
and how much more joy do you get out of that?
10 times
so
more joy.
much more
10 times
than
more.
getting
So
it
much
for
more.
yourself. Yeah.
Well, that and like self-care. So God wants us to take care of ourselves.
Yes.
He wants us to spend but the devil has twisted it, as he does everything. He has made it seem where, oh, we need these things that are just so frail and fragile, and like I said, the nails will fall off in 2 weeks. But God's trying to give you the actual beauty that does not disappear. He's trying to make your personality.
Yeah.
But instead of grabbing for that, we're over here, you know. And yes, if you are blessed enough to go get nails, girl, do it.
Yeah.
Take a friend, get
Yeah.
theirs done too. You know? But that's just it.
Holler
It's
at us.
We're available on Wednesdays.
Like the giving to others, we get so sold on self because I've been working hard. I deserve this.
Yeah.
And you might, you know what? But there's somebody else who might deserve it even more than you, who's never even been able to have it done.
Yeah.
It's like giving.
Yep.
Like I heard something the other day about, like, if you go to buy yourself some groceries, buy the person's behind you or buy a few of theirs behind. Like, it's just the giving, the fact of just giving, just doing. If you go to get your hair done, take somebody else to go get your hair done, or, you know, like just the fact of giving. What you do for yourself, do for somebody else.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And God provides those people in front of you. Like, you don't even, you can see them in the store every time you go.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
you're just like, oh, yep, there goes that cash that's in my wallet because it's about to be gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you finding that you need more fuel throughout the week? Check out these other Jesus-driven podcasts. The Get Right Christian podcast, hosted by Jess Bishop, Jay Barnes, and Justin Brent. And Unshakable with Charlana Kelly, brought to you by Speak Truth Media. Charlana has been a wonderful influencer of ours, and we highly recommend listening to her program. So 18 and 19 wrapped up together. She is constantly ensuring quality of provision and is prepared at all hours to provide, whatever that may look like for you, whether you have to get up in the middle of the night to tend to a sick child or to tend to your husband whose back is hurting and needs pain medicine. She's constantly prepared at all hours to provide and make sure that that provision is quality provision.
Yep.
And then 19 is ensuring that all tasks around your home are tended to that are within your realm of responsibility.
Yep.
So if you extend beyond your realm of responsibility, you stretch yourself thin and you're not doing the tasks that you're responsible for with quality.
Yep.
And that's what it stresses in 18 is the quality of provision.
Or like our to-do list, we get so stressed out because our to-do list is not done. If you have one and it's long, pray over it and ask the Lord to help you get the things that are most important done, and the rest will come.
Yes.
Don't stress yourself out because it's not done.
Like,
Lord,
it doesn't have to be done perfect.
What's the
every time.
most important? What do you need me to get done? What would glorify you more than anything that's on this list? Show me. 9 times out of 10, you won't get your whole to-do list done. You'll probably get 3 things done.
I was going to say, you'll get other things added onto it that you didn't
Yeah.
are more important
But it's
than what
okay.
you thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he'll use it to teach you how to focus your priorities
Yeah.
too.
Yep.
Big time.
Well, that and like also it comes back into delegating. Like
Yes.
she was good at delegating and asking for help and prioritizing that to-do list to know which one, hey, I need to get this done today for sure. Everything else you can figure out will come later.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So after that is 20, and 20 focuses on serve the kingdom. So serve the kingdom of the Lord, give of your time and your effort. And there's a multitude of ways to do that now. I mean, we're extremely unlimited now in today's day and time on how to serve the kingdom of the Lord. So whatever suits you, whatever your strengths are, wherever you succeed and excel, do that. Just give of your time. And that's 20.
Yeah, and I mean we just kind of hit on that too, but I mean if you don't have money to give time, give service, give a kind word, give a smile,
Mow somebody's yard.
meet
Go-
somebody's,
Yeah.
you know.
Whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Serve at the church, your local church, whether it just be signing in kids or maybe working the coffee stand or standing at the door handing out the little things. Just serve somewhere. Go to the nursing home. That's free. Go sit and talk to them old people who are stuck inside them walls. Bring them ice cream. I promise they won't turn
They
it down.
love it. They love it.
But like those things, like just serve.
So 21 talks about that when the snow comes, that she and her family are well prepared, that they're clothed in scarlet. So this one, I perceived it to say that like she is prepared and essentially welcomes hard times because she and her family are prepared to weather them because they're well balanced. Now there may be a different perception. Y'all may have a different perception of that, but that's how I perceived it.
I think it's being fully aware in the times and seasons that you're living in, like now. To think about the times that we're living in now, they're kind of sketchy, they're kind of scary. So it's be sure that you're stocked up maybe on beans, on rice, on little things like that, or extra water, or maybe a generator, things like that. You never know what's to come. And those are all things that are beneficial no matter what, whether the grocery stores get shut down because of a freak ice storm that we have, or, just anything, but you're prepared for the times and seasons ahead and where you're at right now. So
Yeah.
Just like the virgins, make sure that your lamp
Yes,
is
full.
full of oil and that you have extra in stock because you know it's coming. There's times of trouble ahead. Tells you that there is. It's not a walk in the park. So be prepared for them and prepare your family.
or like knowing bad weather, for instance. Like we're here in Texas. Do we hardly ever have snow? No, but here lately, the past few years, we kind of have. being prepared for that. What can you do to prepare? Okay, well, might need some extra blankets, might need to wrap some pipes, might need to, do different things. For us, for instance, it would be finding something for the horse's water that keeps it broke up.
Right.
Like thinking ahead, so when you're not in the moment, you're fighting with everybody because you're stressed out.
Yeah.
You had plenty of time to prepare, but you chose not to. You didn't use your time the correct way. So
Right. That's a good example. I like that.
yeah.
So y'all follow me here. I'm going to address 22 and 24 and circle back to 23 because I felt like 22 and 24 went together really well. So stated in different ways in each verse, but concluding that she is resourceful and she presents herself well. So, she is smart and she's resourceful. She uses things around her and she thinks of ways out that are, I guess, thinking outside the box, we would call it now, to provide for her family and to do things like that. And she presents herself well. Now, given our outward adornment is not supposed to be a focus, right? Our heart is supposed to be a focus. But that doesn't mean that you're not supposed to take care of your body and present yourself well. And it does state that she presents herself well.
I think this modern day time of presenting yourself well is we have a clothing issue. Your value is not in whether you look like, I don't really know another word to put it. I'm not even going to say the word. Anyways, less dressed. Wear clothes that are decent. You don't have to show midriff or cleavage or your cheeks to be valuable. If you present yourself well, you are dressed well, you are presentable. Like, I don't want to have to come in and cover up. Like, those things are, to this day and time, they seem attractive, but they're really not. So when you're presenting well and you have a family, I don't want to go, and my kids don't go to school, but if I was, go to a school event and everybody's staring at me because my cheeks is hanging out or my midriff is showing, or like, present yourself well. Godly character. I'm not saying that you have to be like in a turtleneck, but value yourself a little bit more.
When you respect yourselves, others will too.
Yeah.
And it teaches your kids too how to present themselves and what to look for in someone else.
Love that.
You know, because I want my son to look for a modest woman, not one that everybody sees everything. Like, I want him to have something that he can cherish that only his eyes behold, not the world's eyes.
Yeah.
What's acceptable this day and time is not biblically correct, as far as like what people seek for today.
And now we're not saying to go walk around in dresses.
That's not what I'm saying.
Just hear our hearts in this. Just be modest. I mean, we still wear cut off jeans. We still wear, but the length keeps getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Like, just wear something that covers enough.
Yeah. If you bend over and your parts is hanging out, that's not acceptable. Like, that's
Wear something you can wear to your grandma's house, okay?
Yeah.
like, if you're at the grocery store and that happens and somebody looks like, you've already become a stumbling block for them.
Yeah.
And like, you've stepped, what if they have a problem with lust? What if they have a problem, with adultery? Like, you've already set a stumbling stone, and maybe they had been clean for a little while from that. Like, present yourself well, because you are an outward example of the Lord, especially if you're categorizing yourself as a Christian. You got to be the part too. You can't talk it and not walk it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So, circling back to 23, talks about her husband. And as I read this, I was like, well, we can't control how our communities view our husband. We can't control whether or not he's like a leader within our community or the choices that he makes. And so the notes I have wrote down say, we cannot control how our communities view our husband, but we can pray over them and speak things into existence. So just because our husbands aren't currently, and I'm not saying they're not, I'm just giving an example, just because someone's husband isn't currently a man of God or isn't, a leader within the community or isn't acting the way that he should be, what you can do is you can present him before the Lord, like spiritually present him before the Lord and lay him at the Lord's feet and be praying over him and speaking things into existence, not nagging, not condemning, but praying and using spiritual prayer power to create him to be that man.
Yeah,
In
'cause
verse 23.
if you think about it, somebody never met your husband and they, walked up to him and you're talking about him, and you go to tell about your husband, like, yeah, he's a beer drinking, cussing, lazy slob, like they've already got this whole big picture, and like that might be your perspective, but it might be totally somebody else's. Might be the biggest hearted, like you've done ruined that reputation of your husband for them, and now you're talking bad about him. Like,
Right.
what kind of person are you? And like, I'm not gonna lie, I've been guilty. I have been guilty. But at the same time, not those things. I'm not talking about those things for my husband, but like that guy introduced to me is speak it into existence. I want a godly man. He's such a godly man. He was, the breadwinner of my home, which are all true things. He is the breadwinner of my home. He's a wonderful father, great provider, has a heart as big as Texas, will give the shirt off his back. Like, these are all true statements. But whenever you're in the midst of something that you're battling with at home, you don't present that to somebody else, his flaw to somebody else. Like, that's private. That's a struggle he has, so you don't pull it out. Maybe he does got self issues, maybe,
Right.
but you don't present that as a characteristic of who he is, because it's not.
Well, that, and like they will be known by your character too.
Yep.
So they can be one without a word and they will eventually come around, but like sometimes people will be like, man, they must have something going on because their spouse is
That is so rude.
I don't know where I stopped at, but anyways, like they will be known by your behavior too. So as you struggle in laying that down, don't tear them down, like build them up too, because that's gonna get you somewhere in the long run. And people see that. People see your change, and it does change them.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like whether it takes 10 years to 15 years to see it, just keep
Doing
the right thing. I was telling my daughter the other day, like, being innocent in the situation is something to strive for, because then you never have to apologize, then you never have to feel the shame, then you never have to you never have to be like, I'm sorry, I messed up. That was my bad. Like that's a stain on my garment. Like, build them up, make them want to have that clean garment.
humility. Gotta have humility.
Yeah. Don't tear them down with your words. And I mean, we're all guilty of it. We've all done it before, but
Or just having their back. So in our situation, people everywhere knew my husband, knew him for having a good time and, being young, out drinking, doing things, right, in his past. Well, some people choose to hold on to that past. And I actually had someone, like, probably a month or two ago that came up as like, oh, yeah, I'm sure this is just for a moment. Like, where did that even come from? Like, my husband has been preaching. He has been walking exactly where God has called him to for years now. And instead of being like, yeah, I know, I'm worried about it, or, feeding into the comments that they make, instead it's like, no, he's where God has led him to, and he's not wavering from it. And I tell you, not another word has been said. And it's almost like the devil was like, hey, let me push against you a little bit. Let's see if there's a flaw. And you cannot allow that little crack to be open, because you have to defend him, because he cannot be everywhere. People see bits and pieces. People may have seen him 20 years ago, and that is the last memory that they have of him. It's our job, if we encounter those people, to correct those old memories.
Yes.
That's not who my husband was. He is a new flesh. He is a new body. Like that.
creation.
He is all new. He is walking in God's light don't come at me.
Yeah.
Like-
Well, we're supposed to be the crowns that sit on top of their head, and we're supposed to karate chop those things that they don't see
Yes.
coming away.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's our responsibility.
And you
the-
don't have to feed it back to them when
No.
those things happen, like or something is said. You don't have to go. You don't have to go home and be like, "Guess what so and so said?" You've done stirred up a whole pot of
No,
worms.
do
There are
not.
things that get said, and I will keep them to myself to the
Absolutely.
grave because there's no point in him knowing.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no
Because
point.
you're just going to tear him down.
yeah.
And like we said, nothing but pleasant, agreeable, good things need to come out of the Proverbs 31 woman's mouth.
Be
Yep.
the lioness. Be
Like,
out in
be
front
the
of them.
standard.
Protect them.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've watched my husband working and somebody come when we were at the ranch, come all the way from the other side from one of the other divisions, come over just to tell him something that somebody said. And I'm like, how freaking old are you? Like, and then you just got to know my husband, like, he don't like people talking about him, and it's like, what? And it's like, why did you come over here and stir
Just to
this up? You
stir.
could have kept it to
Just
yourself.
to stir the pot.
And there's no point in that. Now you're causing,
Right.
you've already now caused my husband to sin and fall into whatever it is he's fixing to
You've
get
been a
in.
stumbling block.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like there's some things that are just meant, like if, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but that's not, it's not for us over here. And there's things that I will let slide off my back and he'll never know what was said.
Yeah.
But
You know,
it's
there's-
our job to correct
Yes.
it. Like if we hear it, we see it, or somebody approach us, don't feed into it.
Mm-hmm.
Redirect their thoughts and their
Yeah.
minds and their perception about them. Because if you start just feeding into it, then you're right. It's just going to be a complete
Yes.
spiral, and that's no.
Yeah.
not welcome.
Yeah.
So, Misty, can you have your Bible open okay. Can you read 25 and 26?
Strength and honor are her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness.
So I have strength just means strength and might, and honor means magnificence. It is an ornament. It is splendor. So it's like, oh, I don't know how else to describe it, but it was really good. And then rejoicing means she can laugh because she is held up to this high standard and she's achieving.
Yes.
Don't you feel good when you're achieving these things? And
Oh,
I
yeah.
said earlier with the innocence, as long as you're not bashing and tearing people down, you don't have anything to be shameful for. You can be that magnificent thing. You can be, the light can shine on you and you have nothing to hide. And so that standard is just so much to strive for because of the fact that you can be receive the praise for it. Yes, you want to, not do it in a selfish way, not to just get praise, but if you are held to that high standard, praise those women.
Right.
In my Bible, I have written down she's faithful in all aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Faithful with whatever she's doing for the Lord, faithful with what she's doing for her family. She's always there, timely, shows up, it's faithful.
Mm-hmm.
What she says she will do. It's not I'll say this and then not go and do it. If I'm telling you I'm coming to help, I'm coming.
Yeah.
So you're faithful in everything.
Yep.
Brings honor.
My notes, so the reason I asked you to read it is my notes say simply as it is, because every single piece of that still applies today. Nothing of that has changed.
Yes.
It still applies just like it did back then today.
Yep.
So 27, we've already kind of touched on. So she keeps watch over all aspects of her home, and she does not allow laziness to creep in. That's something that Katie mentioned at the beginning of our conversation.
It says observant of her family's ways. So keeping a watch over your family's ways, not allowing your family to get lazy, not allowing your family. Yeah.
Yeah. And then 28, I have her family is grateful to her and is blessed by her. In return, she is blessed by them. There's balance and understanding there. So everybody upholds their part and their responsibilities and their positions within the family, and in return, everybody's blessed. Everybody's joyful. It's a happy home.
On 27, it at the end, I have the ESV version, and
Mm-hmm.
on it says, "She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness." So that's being observant of her family ways, is trying to make sure your family upholds the most important thing, and that's the Lord. Even though like sometimes we struggle in our home now, like sometimes the men aren't the ones that are leading us to church, so now the women are. So it's making sure that there's no idols being placed in front of it, in front of God. So I think that's important when you're talking about observant of your family's ways, making sure that the Lord is constantly put first.
In
Even
the
if that's a
forefront.
constant nudge to your husband, hey, let's pray before meals.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we're not gonna, obsess because of the money, or, like things like that, making sure God is in control in all aspects of the
Yeah.
life.
And it's not the fact that you as a wife are trying to control him. You're
No.
just here to set the example
Yep.
Right.
and be like, come follow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
planting seeds.
Yep.
Yep.
Just plant seeds. For 29, I have she rises above. And that does not mean that she is better than. That is not what that means.
That's right.
To me, it means that she rises above the world.
Mm-hmm.
So her focuses are her responsibilities, God, not in that order, but her responsibilities are God, her family. She rises above the world. She's able to put those things behind her and focus on the things that are going to bring joy and wholeness and balance and the things that are truly important.
Yep. That basically, like you said, rising above the world is not looking at the worldly view of what a woman, a mom, a wife should be. It's looking at it to a biblical standpoint, what the Lord
Right.
calls you to be. So rising above worldly standards.
In the version that I was looking up, the Hebrew words in, it says to surpass, but that actually means to ascend. So, like, it's a constant of just going upward. So, like, of course, the more you do something, the better you get at it. So then it's, it came across to me like you keep ascending. You don't just, oh, we made it to the top and we're going to stop. No, we keep going and we keep ascending. Like, now that I'm at this level, okay, what's the next level? Where can we go from here?
Because you're not eating the bread of idleness. You don't
Yep.
become content and just stop.
Right.
Yeah. Always trying to add value to your family.
It's like your relationship with the Lord. Once you've reached a certain aspect of it and you fully like have your vision on him and have had like your encounter or whatever, you meet with him daily, like you want more. I don't want to stay where I'm at. I want more. How can I grow more in my relationship? How can I grow better in my marriage? What can I do to constantly better in the kingdom and in my, in my home? I don't want to stop at just mediocre. Like, I want to ascend. I want to go as high I can go. Not to better, but just because I want that for my family. I want that with my relationship with the Lord, like just constantly growing and learning.
Mm-hmm.
There's always room for growth.
Always. And it should never stop. It's a lifelong journey. So 30, we actually have an episode about this. We released it a few weeks back about the fear of man. And 30 is about putting God above all else. No fear of man, only fear of the Lord.
Yep.
Yep. So that was a fun episode. If y'all haven't seen it, you should go. You should go look at it. And I'm gonna be super honest. On 31, I was not able to draw anything from that. So if y'all have any notes on that, I don't have anything down, and I would love to know what y'all drew from that.
So for 30, charm actually means graciousness, which I thought was pretty cool because, like, charm, you think of like a little necklace charm or like somebody sweet, but no, it's a graciousness. Like, you have a graciousness that goes with you. So beauty is fleeting. Like we talked about, we don't want to focus on the outer beauty. Fleeting means emptiness, like vanity. Unsatisfactory was one of the meanings of fleeting, and I felt like that described it very well, because it'll satisfy you for a second, but it doesn't last. It's not a lasting satisfaction. And so of course, fear of the Lord will, a woman who fears the Lord, the Lord, and it has the Lord like all in capital, like the Lord, like you have a relationship with the Lord, Yahweh, not just I go to church and check the box and do what you have the relationship. You have the oil, you have the, anyways, it says she is to be praised, which meant to shine, which means again the magnificence, the honor. She shines like your light will go, Jesus's light will shine through you if you are the gracious woman, if you are the Proverbs 31 woman. And I thought that was really cool, that not to be praised for her selfish gain, but her character, her beauty, it just shines. It's like light. You can't hide it in the darkness. Like it's just there.
The essence of she has sought his face and found it, just like Moses.
Right.
Yes.
I know when it talks about the give her of the fruit of her hands, if you think about it, think about our children, for instance, because they are the fruit of the love of you and your husband. Okay, if you are not to raise them up in the way God leads you to do so, you end up producing bad fruit.
Right.
Okay, so like if they're going to give you the fruit of your hands, like everything you do is honored through God. Your deeds, your actions, your words, like everything you do honors God. So the fruits that you bear should be fruitful. Your children should be fruitful. If you're following the line, if your home is where it should be underneath the Lord, your children have a better way of doing so. Your works end up being more fruitful because they're done not in vain, they're done through the Lord.
But your fruit comes through your works,
Yes.
through action,
Yes.
through the activity.
So that means you can't be fruitful if you're lazy. So that means like she has worked diligently all through every aspect of her life, so she will get the fruits from it, the goodness from it.
And they will speak for themselves.
Yes.
That her fruit will speak
for
for her.
itself.
Shine bright.
Exactly.
Yes. Yep. It's not unattainable.
No.
I do not believe it's unattainable. I believe it's something to strive for. I don't believe it's easy. I believe that the world that we live in makes it harder than maybe what it used to be. But I don't believe it's unattainable.
No, it's not.
You just have to keep ascending and just reach one level and then go for the next. Like just keep ascending the mountain.
I think it's all selflessness. So put yourself aside, put your pride aside, and go out and help others. Help people pick themselves up whenever you see them fall. Prepare your home. Prepare their hearts you need to prepare your children's hearts for eternity, right? That is our duty, and she is showing that in Proverbs 31. So help your family grow. Be there by their side. Do nothing but speak positive of them. Pray over them. Make sure that whenever that snow comes, that they're ready to fight it, to weather the storm, and to be bold in your faith. Be strong. Be that woman of valor, because you have to be strong. You can't be weak in that matter. So I think there's very faithful. Yep.
And if you do put your time with Jesus first, like all that other stuff just falls into place. And if you don't have it, and you don't have a heart for it, and you don't have a want for it, ask and keep asking. Keep asking.
But you have to show up to ask. You can't just ask, just give me this. Like, he's not just going to give it to you. Ask and start putting forth the effort. Discipline yourself in these things. What can I do today to do better? Discipline yourself. You've got to get in it. It's not just going to fall upon you. I'm not saying that the Lord won't do that, but you have to train and get in there, and he will build your character through your dedication. He's not just going to give you something freely when you didn't work for it. I'm not saying that he won't, because he very well can, but discipline yourself. These are all things that are attainable. You discipline yourself to get up and go to work every morning for a job that you hate. You discipline yourself to go out to eat with friends. You discipline yourself to get up and take your kids to school because it's what you have to do. Discipline yourself in the word and understand it, because at the end, that's all that's going to matter.
Right.
You getting your kids to school on time, you making sure you met at brunch for your daily whatever, or like, this is all that matters. Be right with the Lord and get your family prepared for the Lord. That's the highest calling of the Proverbs 31 woman, is making sure your home is in order.
And that's what we're thirsty for.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Dear Lord, we come to you today and we ask that you just show us how to achieve and ascend to the level of the Proverbs 31 woman. God, we pray that you show us in our day and time what that looks like and the ways that we can just get closer to that obtainable goal, Lord. You have put it in your word so that way we will have something to strive for, have something to look up to and to obtain, Lord. Lord, with you, anything is possible, but we do have to lay aside our selfishness, Lord. And as I grow older, Lord, the more selfishness in my actions that I have seen and noticed, and thank you. I thank you for that revelation, Lord, so that way I can lay it down and that way I can take steps to ascend the mountain. That way we can lay aside the pride and the selfishness that we cannot take those rocks with us and ascend, Lord. We will be stuck in the same level that we're in. And dear Lord, I ask that you help anybody that listens to this to have that revelation of, Lord, just how selfish this world is and how selfish some of our decisions and our words are. That we would be able to have a grace to lay it down and that you would place a hunger in them to go up and to achieve a different standard of living, Lord, a different standard of showing you, Lord, that we would just die to ourselves and pick up our cross and follow you, Lord. That's what you require. You require us to lay down ourselves. Lord, I thank you for the opportunity to share your word, and I thank you for the opportunity to discuss these things with these wonderful ladies, Lord. I thank you that we have an opportunity to plant seeds, and I thank you that you have blessed and watered and grown each and every one of us. And I thank you that we will continue to grow and to continue to ascend the mountain, Lord. Help us not to be lazy, even if we are tired, Lord. Give us that burst of energy, Lord. Help us just to keep striving, even whenever we get overwhelmed with the world and we get pulled off the path, Lord. Help us to just look back to you and to shine our light for you, Lord. Help us just to bring strength and honor to our family, that we help build them up, that we help the people who may not be close to you, that we help them come closer to you, Lord. I thank you that you have given us a microphone to speak your words and what that looks like today, Lord, and that maybe we could help with someone's understanding of what the Proverbs 31 woman looks like. And I thank you for the opportunity to do it. And I thank you for each and every one here and each and every listener. And God, I plead the blood over this word and over each and every person that listens to this, Lord. And I pray that you would change lives, Lord. God, I thank you that you are coming soon. And I thank you for keeping us all safe as we go home. And in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.